Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I'm not here with Geeky Sparkles. I'm going to talk about the video game industry. I'm going to talk about the difference between the American, Western, AAA video game industry and the Japanese video game industry. If you read the news and you talk about the video game industry and you talk about the layoffs in the video game industry, it paints a very bleak picture for many AAA developers. In fact, we have lots of developers, people working in the industry now. They're like, gaming's over, it's all gone, everything's turning to dust. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? And in Japan, it's a totally different story. Now, we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about some questionable decisions that Nintendo of America might be making later in the video. But for now, we're going to focus on how in Japan, it's not doom and gloom. In fact, things are looking very good. And I would argue in the indie space, outside of AAA gaming, things are looking very good. Indie games are incredibly popular. In fact, if you want to watch me take a stab at some indie games, go out to the official Clownfish TV X account. It's at clownfishtv.com. We're working on that. We're trying to get Clownfish TV back. But I actually have been live streaming some indie games over there. Last night I played Maniac, which is incredibly violent. It's very much like GTA 1 or 2, but it was a lot of fun. It's pretty cool. This game I think was made by like one guy. And it's like $5 on Steam, and for $5, it's amazing. But we played that. We played tested with Vampire Survivors and some other games, and I might do more indie game streams over on X, Twitter. I'm trying to, make the best of it over there. I wasn't really sold on it, but they are adding a lot more features now that I do like, and so I might be willing to give it another chance. And I do think that the live streaming overall is better quality than YouTube's. Not as many people, I don't think, watching us over there, but we did have about, I just was messing around last night for about an hour, and I think I had about 700 people watching. So yeah, check us out on X. Again, that's at clownfishtv.com while we work on trying to get at Clownfish TV back. So this is coming from the Japan Times. Japan's game industry weathers the storm amid layoffs worldwide. I said, well, 2023 was a stellar year in the eyes of game enthusiasts because we had games like Zelda and Baldur's Gate. This year has so far seen game companies generate headlines for an altogether different reason: mass layoffs. From Microsoft to Sony Interactive, industry giants have shed hundreds of employees with games canceled as a result. In Japan, something of a parallel universe exists. The country has proven curiously resistant to layoffs, with local gaming studios actually embarking on a hiring push and raising salaries to entice talent. This is very much like the comic book industry versus the manga industry, isn't it? Where manga is selling very, very well. Now it is down from its historic highs, but still, compared to the American, the Western comic book industry, it's doing gangbusters, and it's doing gangbusters over here. But if you look at the American comic book industry, it's been completely decimated, destroyed. It's a one-way ticket to poverty town for a lot of people. And I think the problem is you. I think the problem is the people that they're hiring. And we'll talk about this. And we'll talk about something that's come up, a job listing that I hope Nintendo of America doesn't make the same mistakes that their peers have made. When you compare Japan to the rest of the world, it's as stable as a rock, said the head of a Tokyo-based video game consultancy, Canton Games. Is it Canton Games? The current global situation also stands in stark contrast to the one a few years ago when the pandemic trapped people at home. The video game industry as a whole enjoyed a winning streak, but studios that ballooned at that time are now downsizing. Yeah, I'm going to talk about this because this is what happened. Basically, there was a lot of over hiring, and Forbes put an article out. They're talking more about the tech industry in general, like Facebook and Twitter, obviously, and several other social media companies. Amazon just laid a bunch of people off today too. At AWS. But they did. They hired way too many people during the pandemic. They thought that apparently they thought we were going to be locked in our houses forever. Was that the plan? I don't know. Maybe it was. Who the hell knows? And now they're laying a bunch of people off. Now, a lot of the people they hired based on DEI requirements. And they hired a lot of, I hate to say it, a lot of the wrong people. Now, I want to reiterate for the umpteenth time, for those of you in the back who are not listening, I think the right person for the job should always be hired. And the right person can come in any gender, any skin tone, any religion, what I'm saying, any ethnicity. That's never been a question for me. However, with DEI policies, a lot of times the wrong person gets put into a job just because they have those traits, right? So even if this particular person is not qualified at all, we need one of these particular kinds of people, so we're going to put them in. And that's not good. That's not good for business. And Japan's a pretty homogenous country, right? So I don't think you're going to get a lot of DEI in Japan. But here in the West, the Western arms of these companies, they absolutely positively are going to push it. And we'll talk about that. This at the same time, the rise of indie developers and the growth and popularity of mobile gaming have resulted in a more competitive industry with larger companies being squeezed. No. What's going on is gamers are rejecting the AAA titles. They're rejecting the titles from the mainstream publishers. In a lot of cases, they're rejecting them because of the heavy-handed politics. They're rejecting them because of them squeezing gamers, constant DLC, live service games, subscriptions, unfinished games, unpolished games being shipped. And they're asking 70 to 80 bucks for it. You know what I'm saying? That's what's going on. Meanwhile, for $5, for $5, you can get a game like this where you just blow stuff up. Hours and hours of fun, just blowing stuff up for $5 on Steam. And I'm pretty sure it's just one guy. I just saw one guy's name on the title screen of Maniac. I'm just putting it out there. In January, Microsoft laid off 1,900 employees across Activision Blizzard and Xbox, according to an internal memo leaked to the media. In February, Sony laid off a bunch of people. The industry has changed immensely. We need to be future ready. EA cut people. While companies overseas are laying off thousands, studios in Japan are scrambling to attract and retain talent, a state of affairs that is symptomatic of the nation's demographic challenges in its shrinking workforce. Make more babies. That's what you have to do, make more babies. In March, Capcom announced it was raising its starting salary for new graduate hires for the fiscal year that began Monday as the company pursues further investment in human capital and the acquisition of exceptional talent. Now, back in the day, you would start with a company, and a lot of times you'd retire at that company in Japan, even in the US to a certain degree. But in Japan especially, you hear about the career trajectories of a lot of longtime game developers. And they started out like in their, even late teens, early 20s, and then they rose through the ranks, and eventually they wind up being like the head of the department, or they're, what I'm saying? It was a career. Look at Miyamoto. It was a career for them. And now, these people are they're transient. They just kind of come through, do their thing, make a name for themselves, get a notch in the belt, and then they move on, to something else. TBS announced its full-scale entry into the video game industry last year, vowing to deliver the most impressive gaming experiences and harness its IP, embarking on a hiring push. Well, let's hope they don't Disney themselves. Put out some good games. Japanese companies are actually doing the exact opposite of what the game companies or direct competitors in the West are doing. They said, noting that local companies have to attract and retain talent in an increasingly competitive hiring landscape. Japanese companies also place a stronger emphasis on long-term employment and employee loyalty. That is true, and I just talked about that. Noting this may contribute to greater stability within the workforce, reducing the likelihood of mass layoffs during challenging times. At the same time, they said Japan's robust domestic gaming market is less reliant on international sales and, as a result, is less vulnerable to fluctuations in global market trends. Another important aspect of Japan's video game market is the pronounced popularity of mobile gaming Anyone who catches a train during rush hour is likely to have a sense of the strength of this segment. Yeah. According to ASO World, Japan is home to about 70 million mobile gamers. In Japan, you have a whole ecosystem of purely mobile-first and mobile-only game companies. That's true. In fact, it was so weird here in the West to see them announce, Final Fantasy games for like Nokia phones back in the day. That was inconceivable to us. Like, why would you release a Final Fantasy VII spin-off on a Nokia phone? That makes no damn sense. Yeah, it does, because they were playing mobile games on their flip phones, like back in the day. While the rise of AI, something of a final boss, has created concerns about what it means for the broader industry and its health, the sector in Japan is less threatened because of the need for workers. Looking at the future of the Japanese gaming industry is quite optimistic because they have weathered the storm after Corona much, much better than the West. Further afield, the picture isn't as bright. I think we're going to see big layoffs in the video game industry in the West. It's not the end yet. So, again, they overhired. They hired the wrong people in a lot of cases, and now they're using the tech bubble bursting and Hollywood bursting and all of this stuff, the venture capital drying up. They're using that as an excuse to get rid of the wrong people, in my opinion. Because you see the people that are getting laid off, you see the projects that are getting canceled in a lot of cases, and there's a common thread, is basically if Tumblr or Twitter made a video game or made a comic book or made a movie or a TV show, those are the people that are getting purged. And I think what's going to happen is a lot of these companies are going to kind of go back to what is profitable. They're going to have a leaner, meaner team. And I think a lot of it is lip service. Like the economy here in the US, the food's a lot more expensive. Yeah, rent's more expensive. But it's not as catastrophic as some people are making it out. In fact, most places I go, I see all kinds of help wanted signs. It's just the entertainment industries. They're purging the activists. I'm going to be honest. They're purging the activists from the entertainment industry because all they want to do is use the platform to bitch about politics and cancel people. So they're getting rid of those people first. I'm not saying they're not getting rid, or that they're not getting rid of people that are good at their jobs. They might be getting rid of people that are good at their jobs, but they are getting rid of the people that are not good at their jobs, that got hired during better times. And, now the free money is run out. And now you're a liability. Now you got to go. So let's hope that Nintendo of America does not repeat the same mistakes that other AAA studios, other Western studios have made. So this job listing has been going around. Grum's put it up. Nina Infinity talked about it. I saw a couple other YouTubers did videos. I think Yellow Flash did a video on it. This is what they're looking for. According to, is it Nerdigans? Packer Girl? Does Nintendo know what their American branch is doing? I don't know. They said they're looking for a localization product specialist. But you go down the list and buried in the middle of it, and all these things are good. They test and evaluate games and products. They act as a product subject matter to assist other Nintendo departments, collaborates with localization staff at Nintendo of Europe, maintains awareness of game industry in assigned to market. Okay, that's fine. Maintains awareness of culturalization and DEI-related topics, identifying issues and proposing solutions as needed. So this is a huge sticking point with a lot of gamers right now, partially because of the Sweet Baby Inc. debacle. Gamers don't want their games messed with, and usually their games are messed with by people that are activist-minded, and I think that basically just sends that this is like catnip to an activist. They're like, oh wait, I get to identify problematic issues in Nintendo games. That means I can be the one to talk them out of letting white characters have space buns. Hot damn. I can be the one to tell them not to carry certain titles in the eShop because I find them offensive. Hot damn. And I could totally see somebody applying for this job just being like, that's right, I'm going to work for Nintendo and I'm going to tell them what the West wants. And we saw this with, Funimation and Crunchyroll, that they tried to tell Japanese companies what the West wants. And these companies, I'd like to think they're not stupid. I just think that they don't really fully understand what's going on over here, that there is a culture war going on over here. And I don't think they understand that these activists that have gotten into these industries do not speak for like 98% of gamers or comic book readers or animation fans or toy fans, whatever it is, movie fans. They don't. And I'm concerned now that we're basically gonna let somebody into Nintendo here in the US that's gonna do some more gatekeeping. Now, I don't think this is a new thing necessarily. I think Nintendo has had a DEI statement, and given where they're at in Washington, absolutely they're gonna have some kind of a DEI statement. That's just the way it is. But it's gonna be really interesting to see if that has any bearing on the products that Nintendo releases here in the West. Because back in the day, a lot of times what kept Japanese products over here was a language barrier, was a cultural barrier, a market barrier, and we've been fortunate, we've been spoiled in a lot of ways that pretty much everything that gets released in Japan finds its way over here at some point. All the major releases tend to. And that wasn't the case. That definitely was not the case when I was growing up. When I started playing video games, we were lucky. If you got a JRPG, you were damn lucky if you got it. If you got every game in a series, you were damn lucky. Look at Final Fantasy for the best example I can think of. Everybody's talking that their first real JRPG was Final Fantasy VII. And then people were asking well, where's Final Fantasy, 5 and 6? Where's 4, 5, and 6. Where are Final Fantasies 4, 5, and 6? Because we got every other game over here, pretty much. And they renumbered them and, bastardized them in a lot. I think 4, was Easy Type. I want to say it was Easy Type. But, that has not been the case in a while. Unfortunately, we still get people mucking with the translations. And it seems like it's more heavy-handed now than it was even back then. Back then, a lot of times, it was we can't show too much cleavage, or we can't do this, we can't do that. But now we've got them, Square in California going back and putting more clothes on characters that were in games that were rated teen back in the 1990s. We've got them putting more clothes on Mortal Kombat characters, women that are going to literally get sliced in half and you're going to see their insides, but you got to make sure that their boobs are properly covered up. It's so weird. It's just so weird. So we'll see what happens. There we go, guys. Again, check out Clownfish TV on X. We're going to try to ramp up content over there that will not be here on YouTube. I think some of the stuff will stream over there. We might bring some of it over here, but it's not going to be live. YouTube doesn't seem to work for live streams unless you have a dedicated time set aside per week that you can do streams, and we don't. We're very busy. We do a lot of different things. So anyway, please subscribe. We'll talk later.